Hello, everyone. It's been a while. I've been very busy this semester. It's been a hell of a semester, and I really missed recording these videos, but I have been doing work on the project. Mostly just little notes and a lot of thinking. I have started working on the plot diagram ever since. It's currently still in the rising action. We're going to talk more about it later. But it's a big beast, so I wanted to talk about this one specific thing that I asked myself as I was letting ruins stew in my brain after I completed it. And that is right down here. Why is Eclipse Cassie's token companion animatronic, rather than Roxanne? And I thought about this for a long time because I thought, after seeing Cassie and Roxanne's connection, I thought it would make sense. But then the more I thought about it, I actually thought of, 8.5 reasons why that would not be a good idea. And I wrote all of them down. And I put them in black because I want to reveal them solely for this video, and I actually put them on a separate page for that. Everything that will be back to normal after the recording is done, but I'm doing it here like this for the sake of presentation. So, let's get into the first reason. Kind of obvious, Roxanne's kind of busy being corrupted by the bunny's code right now, and I could make it so that she isn't, but at the same time, I kind of want her to be for more reasons that I will explain later. Or rather just because it's an interesting thing. Yeah, I'll definitely explain it later. Next, we have, you can faintly see it. While Cassie's favorite animatronic is Roxanne, even in canon it can be concluded that she has spent more time with Eclipse than Roxanne, and if not, an equal amount. Roxanne is part of the main band, who can only be met briefly for photos before moving on to the next kid, and for brief party reservations. Meanwhile, Eclipse is designed to spend all of their dedicated time with the children. Eclipse is allowed to take... it's been a long week. A long few months. A long 20-something years. Eclipse is allowed time to focus more on individual children as they are a caretaker and playmate, while Roxanne is more of a performer and must focus on the crowd. I kind of got the idea that Roxanne could only spend so much time with kids because, well, first of all, that one voice line, the unused one where it was like the birthday song and then it was like the next party starts in like 10 minutes or something. And then it was just, like, so quick, and then I was like, alright, get out of here. And secondly is because in the cardboard cutouts that we see while Cassie is wearing the Vanny mask, you see Gregory comforting her, but you don't see anything about Roxanne. And of course, you take canon with a grain of salt when you're working on these kinds of projects. And it's Five Nights at Freddy's, so yeah, it's a big salt pile. But, those are the kinds of things that I just want to think about. I should also mention, just as a reminder, because it's been a while, Eclipse is the name that I use to talk about Sun and Moon simultaneously. It's not necessarily the character Eclipse that comes from canon, but, so, yeah, and because Sun and Moon, reminder, Sun and Moon are the same person, in this series, or not the series, in this project. God, it's Friday night. What am I doing? I just had a very big dinner and I'm just yippity-doo, but I really wanted to record this. So here we are. This is the me that you're gonna get, and this is honestly the me that I want you to have, because it is what it is. This is reality. We have to face it. So, third reason. Eclipse has a much different perspective on life in the Pizzaplex and even the outside world from Freddy. Roxanne and Freddy are in very similar daily situations, and they see each other almost every day. Well, every day. Why did I autocorrect to almost? Anyway, meaning that they wouldn't learn as much from each other as Eclipse and Freddy would. Thus, it wouldn't be as interesting to see their outlooks collide. Yeah, with, Gregory having Freddy as his companion and Cassie having Eclipse as her companion, that means that Gregory and Cassie's worlds are going to collide, right? Because she is a sheltered child and he is not. And Freddie is a rock star performer. And Eclipse is, well, pretty much the equivalent of a washed up celebrity in a sense. But also, you know, they're not like seeing Freddy and the others is more of a special occasion than seeing Eclipse is, because you go into the daycare, you're gonna see Eclipse. You go into any other part of the pizza place and it's like you might get to see Freddy in person. You might get to do these things. You're gonna have to pay to have him at your party and stuff like that. And even then, it's not going to be for very long because there's a good chance that he has a lot of reservations because he's very popular and stuff like that. And, he's a little bit more high maintenance in that sense. And, Eclipse is built for that. So having their worlds collide would be interesting in my opinion. Also, they would have very interesting conversations about astronomy. Freddy has this space motif going on. And then there's also Phaser Blast and what was it, Freddy in Space, And I kind of want to roll with that because, he uses the term superstar. There's a lot of astronomical, that might not be the right use for the word, but there's a lot of references to astronomy in Freddy's everything. So I thought it would be funny if, there was some conversation surrounding that. Like, maybe he's a little starstruck when he sees Sun, no pun intended, and vice versa. So, oh, what am I kidding? The pun was absolutely intended. Okay, so unlike Roxanne and Freddy, Eclipse has never personally known Bonnie. This allows their perspective on the situation to have more of an outside-looking-in effect, so the conclusions they come to may differ more from the others. It is totally possible for Freddy and the others to be emotionally manipulated and to, try to understand Bonnie's actions when we eventually get to this point. Eclipse doesn't give a fuck. Eclipse has no reason to care about anything other than keeping the kids safe. And good for them, honestly. So that's something that's gonna, again, conflict. It drives the story, and that's what I want to see. So Eclipse's thespian background can be compared to the acting that the animatronics do as the characters they portray. How many of their experiences do they claim to have had when acting as their character have they actually had? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Oh, sorry, I nudged the mic very hard, trying to give myself a scratch. Sorry. How can they take advantage of this to fulfill or achieve something? So, essentially, for those who may or may not remember, it has been I'm going to say confirmed in air quotes because it's in the books and there's a lot of debate on what how many things from the books are true in the gameverse, specifically Security Breach. There are some things that are true, there are some things that it's we are not 100% certain, but there are a lot of things and suggesting, and there has been in the books apparently a direct confirmation that the daycare attendant used to be an actor or performer or something in the theater until something was changed, and I believe this. it makes kind of a bit of sense, which I think, if I recall correctly, people were making theater kid jokes about Sun and Moon before that was even confirmed, and not only because of their attire, but also their personality and the juxtaposition of the daycare to the theater, so on and so forth. And it made sense, and it was confirmed. So I kind of want to keep that going, especially considering I'm working with theater right now, and I'm learning more and more about it, and it's even more interesting. And, I kind of want that to be a thing that's talked about, because there has been some discussion about, I can't remember if it was a real recording or if it was a fan who had a really good Glam Rock Freddy impression. I don't think it was AI. I don't even like AI. Anyway, so it was something about Freddy questioning if he was art or something. And I kind of want to delve into that because what we're talking about here is how important are these animatronics to these kids, and that's an important question considering the kids are questioning their importance in the world and all this other stuff. What is important? What is not important? What is necessary? What isn't necessary? Art, survival, survival and gift giving is kind of the thing I'm gonna call it. Which is, oh God, who wrote that? Who wrote that? It's a book that I'm reading, and hold on, let me sign into my school account real quick. I'm gonna do it on my phone so I can tell you exactly who it was that wrote this book that we're currently reading part of in my theater class. My God. Anne Bogart. Jesus, I don't know how I didn't think of that name. Anyway, there was a book she wrote, and she talked about something. It's called A Director Prepares, and in it she talks about someone who said that humans run on two types of, where is it? Okay, I found it. Good Lord, I'm so sorry. I'm definitely gonna make that cut. That was a lot of silence. So, the quote from Anne Bogart in A Director Prepares, it's marked as page 4 in the introduction. She says, Lewis Hyde, in his book entitled The Gift, Imagination and the Erotic Life of Property, suggests that humans always take action and make decisions from two possible sources, the survival instinct or the gift-giving impulse. And the gift-giving impulse, essentially, talks more about art and such. So the gift-giving impulse, like the survival instinct, also demands action and decisiveness, but the results differ because the intention that provokes the action has nothing to do with security. The action originates in the impulse to give someone a gift and the urge to create a journey for others outside of their daily experience. This instinct requires generosity, interest in others, and empathy. And it goes on. Here's a relevant thing. Imagine planning a surprise birthday party for a friend. You make decisions about whom to invite and how to astonish and when to reveal, all with a sense of vicarious pleasure and excitement. You are structuring a journey for another person through direct empathy and feeling. The creative action and choices spring from the gift-giving impetus. This kind of impulse also determines how we compose a song, develop a story, design a house, and, ideally, how we rehearse a play. We create journeys for others to be received in the spirit of a gift, and that's where we can make the connection right here, is... It's capitalized art. That's what this is. That's what this is. Okay? You understand? And... yeah, that's a few paragraphs about that. There's a lot of philosophy to it. Next answer. So, Cassie's goal in the story is to see Roxanne one last time before she moves away. If Roxanne were present early on, it would have solved Cassie's main motive before her story really had a chance to get on its feet. Ta-da! That's like the biggest answer to this, honestly, is because Cassie has a motive here, and we need her to be here at the same time. The reason that she shows up in canon is because Gregory's there, but, like, the whole backstory that I gave Gregory, that wouldn't work, so I had to, chop it up and move it someplace else. Well, now I have to accommodate for it, and this is the accommodation, and I can't get rid of the accommodation, and there's like a half answer that kind of goes with this, which is Roxanne had a strong impact on Cassie's life, and it's something that she's chasing. This can be compared to Eclipse talking about eclipse chasers. I was thinking about this. One thing that I learned about in... I think it was astronomy. That would make sense. Yeah, it wasn't astronomy. Gracious. I was talking about, like, how I've been referring to, I've been referring to sun and moon as eclipse in general, and a lot of people have for a long time, but of course this is slightly different in this scenario. The name Eclipse for a specific version of the daycare attendant has existed ever since the first release of the game, so even before the Eclipse we know now came along. And I was thinking about, when you have this character... the two characters of Sun and Moon being merged into one, essentially, in a mental sense, not just a physical sense. That presents the question, like, oh, can they technically be called Eclipse? First of all, and second of all, it would be easier to call them Eclipse rather than the daycare attendant, and because the daycare attendant is kind of, well, first of all, it's long. Second of all, it's kind of their occupation rather than their name. And you could call them Sun and Moon interchangeably, but if you don't know who they are right now, you could just call them Eclipse, you know. It makes sense. And but I feel like, you know, there's this whole thing about Eclipse's personality going on, in which, again, they're a thespian, they're an actor, and I wonder, like, how I've heard some of those unused voice lines of Sun, specifically in Ruin, where they just have this kind of personality that doesn't really show, in which they were incredibly sassy, and I thought that was hilarious. They were like, no, turn on the generators. Why aren't you listening? It was so good. Of course, if I really wanted to, and I really had the energy, I would have put way more effort into that. But I decided not to just now because I'm tired. And so, yeah. But anyway, that is something I kind of want to think about, where I'm like, oh, maybe that's like, maybe if I were to make that work in this universe, if I were to talk about it, or this project rather, I could be like, well, that was the personality they played in the show, like, in their when they were in the theater. Maybe it was like the sassy sun and the mischievous moon. And so you have that, but at the same time, then you have their new personality, which is just big and in your face and bodacious and excitable and on crack. And so it's like, wow, the change is drastic. And then it got me thinking. I was like, okay, so then what's the truth? Because you're an actor, what's your real personality? But then I thought about it. It's like, well, they're all technically acting. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, well, you know, maybe there was there was some discussion about, like, do the animatronics act the same way they do around kids than they do other animatronics, or perhaps adults, you know, when they're talking to their colleagues, so to speak, and their co-workers. Do they act the same, or do they have a slightly different vocabulary? Do they have a slightly different posture? You know, all these other things. I mean, we've all seen the way Freddy stands when he's looking at Gregory. It's incredibly funny, where he's like got his arms out by his side and he like slowly leans downward to look more directly at you, and all this other stuff. And so I was thinking, like, maybe when Eclipse and Freddy are around each other and Cassie and Gregory are, like, off somewhere else, like I thought about this other thing that I'll tell you about in a minute, but maybe when they're on their own, they just talk way more casually, and maybe Sun taps back into that old personality of hers, and yeah. But the thing I wanted to about Cassie and Gregory being off somewhere else is I was thinking about the setup of the daycare, because OSHA violations. I watched that whole video that someone made about that, and I was thinking about maybe there could be like a Gucci, like a squishy, kind of almost bounce castle like like a play place staircase that goes up to the oh shit, the balcony to Sun Moon's room, that like kind of spirals. Maybe it just goes straight down into the pit or something a little safer. And I thought about that, and then I was like, what about that room that's like in the tunnel? And then I had a really cool idea for something that I call the star room, and I'm kind of married to it, unfortunately, because my brain went, oh, I don't know. But then I imagined, like, all of a sudden, I don't know how many of you have been to Disney World, especially around the time this was a thing. I don't know if it's still a thing. Epcot, Spaceship Earth. There is a specific part of the ride in which you go, and if I recall correctly, you're in space. My monitor. You're in space. Oh God. A good thing I caught that, me saying that on the thing. Okay, I got the visual back. Oh, I can't wait to hear that back. Oh man. But you're in space and you're kind of going around big planet Earth, I think. But the point is, the ceiling is stars, but it's like basically a lumpy black ceiling with lights coming through it to simulate a space sky, a sky in space or a night sky. I love that. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if that, like a little bit of that was in there? And I was like, man, like maybe that could be like a low sensory room. And because I'm actually thinking about, the other thing about this that's a challenge is I'm thinking about this place, if it was more, it had more if the Pizzaplex overall had more verisimilitude in terms of how sustainable it is and how safe it is and how likely it is to still be open, etc. So, yeah. Now on to, yep, that's the very last reason. The very last reason, and arguably the most important one, is they're my favorite, and I have a lot of ideas about them, and you know damn well I'm going to show them off. I mean, what can I say? I have a lot of ideas about a lot of these characters, and because I'm a bit of a nerd, I really do think Eclipse is such a cool character, and I really want to work with them even more, especially when it comes to working off of them and other characters. And they're not going to dominate everything. Don't worry. I'm definitely going to make sure that doesn't happen. But they definitely, with their presence, the story's going to benefit from it so much. And I'm very excited to do that. I have a lot of other things to get out of the way, but I'm going to keep you guys updated. I still have the Tumblr blog open. The link is in the description. And I do talk more on there. Whenever I get an idea, I'll usually make a little post on there. And, yeah, so there's that. And I'm gonna get back to work now. So, yeah, at 8:22 p.m. I have a little bit of work to do. It's okay, though. It's pretty simple stuff. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll try to record more when I can and do more stuff. I might start talking about the plot diagram soon. Maybe where I left off, so that you can understand what I'm currently like trying to get over. And yeah, see you around.